Hello and welcome to Fear on the Frontier, a journey through horror westerns. I'm Clark Hodgkiss, the co-writer of Renegade Westerns and one-time editor of Blood, Money and Vengeance, the spaghetti western fanzine. My illustrious companions tonight are Kevin Lyons, the horror and sci-fi expert, who is the editor of the Encyclopedia of Fantastic Film and Television. That's EOFF.TV.com. So that's Kevin Lyons to the left of me, and below both of us in a hierarchical position is Kevin Grant, my co-author of Renegade Westerns, the author of The Essential Guide to Spaghetti Westerns, that's Any Gun Can Play, and also the author of Vigilantes, which is a new publication about vigilantes in popular cinema. So we'll crack on. We've chosen a few films tonight, horror westerns, and we'll start with 1959's Curse of the Undead, directed by the unfortunately named Edward Dine.
What was he, this being half human, half what? Appearing out of the nightmare darkness. Evil his face, evil his deeds.
Do you really think I'd invent something as horrible as all this just to get rid of a ranch hand?
I don't know what to think. I only know that I can't accept such a thing as a vampire.
His victims, the young and the beautiful, as well as the bold and the strong.
You was just lucky the other night when my man missed you. If that was me, you'd be pushing dirt.
Don't reach for your gun. Will you get out of here?
You call the time.
Are they doomed, all who oppose him?
Drake!
Can nothing human stop him?
I hit him. I know I hit him.
It's a Universal horror western, which comes towards the end of a very long cycle of successful horror movies that began with the Dracula films and the Frankenstein films in the 30s and 40s. So, Mr. Lyons, can you tell us anything about Curse of the Undead?
Well, yeah, you say it came at the end of the Universal cycle, which is very true. But it's kind of interesting because it overlaps with the Hammer Gothics as well, which had started just a couple of years before with Curse of Frankenstein and with Dracula. So it's got kind of one foot in each camp, really, sort of the old style Universal, but it's looking forward to the new revival in Gothic cinema. Yes. It's also interesting. I think it's one of the first westerns that really is a horror film. A lot of them before were very much of the kind of Scooby-Doo school of horror. At the end of it, you know, the good guys unmask the bad guys as being just ordinary people. Yes,
that's right. I mean, it certainly has a vampire in the shape of I forget his name. What's his name?
Michael Pate.
Michael Pate. That's right. It's Australian actor Michael Pate, who is the vampire. Who's obviously he seduces one of the local ladies. He lives in a crypt. There's lots of sort of nocturnal scenes set in cemeteries. It does have the atmosphere of like you say, those sort of Universal stroke Hammer Gothic films. It's filmed in black and white, so it makes a great use of silhouettes and shadows. So, Kevin, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, it's a curious one, and it's an enjoyable movie as well. I like the fact that even though it does stem from the Universal tradition and was hot on the heels of Hammer, it veers away from the Dracula folklore and into Catholicism. It traces its vampirism to the mortal sin of suicide in Catholicism, which was an interesting touch. And
Yes.
also, I like the fact that despite having Michael Pate as the vampire, and Western fans will know Pate very well with a long history of villainous roles in the genre, even though in this particular one, there's quite a lot of sympathy for his character. So it's quite interesting in that respect.
That's right. Yes, he certainly is a tormented soul, isn't he?
Right.
And there's a great deal made of this that he needs to kill to survive. Well, even though of course he's undead, but in order to continue and to continue as the undead, he has to kill. And yes, that's right. There is a lot of sympathy for him, and I think it's nicely played. I think it's a good mixture of horror and a good mixture of with strong Western elements. I mean, there are gunfights. He also draws last, and he appears to be impervious to bullets as well for most of the film. But it's not really a classic in either genre. So I think it blends the two genres very well without being a classic of either the horror movie or the Western. South of the border now, with a film called El Charro de las Calaveras. It's which it translates to Rider of the Skulls. It was released, at least we think it was released in 1965, and it's directed by Alfredo Salazar. It features a masked, what should we say, like a Zorro type character who in three separate stories fights a werewolf, quite a freaky looking vampire type chap, and in the final segment of the film a headless horseman. It's quite ludicrous. It's a lot of fun. The monster costumes look straight out of it's Halloween costumes. So what do you think of this one?
Well, this is one of those films where, I mean, the cliche about movies like this is that they're often a lot more interesting, a lot more fun to read about or hear about than to actually watch. But this is completely the opposite. It's just totally bizarre, at least from our cultural perspective. Anyway, I don't know how this would have played to Mexican audiences at the time. In a culture that where the Day of the Dead, for example, is one of the biggest celebrations of the year. But from our perspective, certainly everything that goes on in this film is completely deranged. There's wrestling, inevitably there's wrestling with a masked Mexican hero involved. Don't expect any subtlety at all. The atmosphere is just completely over the top from beginning to end.
Yes.
It's one of those just to sit back and just soak up, really, let it just roll over you.
Yeah, and there's a real obsession with skulls. Skulls seem to be littered all over the floors of cemeteries. There are skull type creatures that walk around, in addition to the other, the main villains of the piece, which is obviously comes from that the Mexican tradition of the Day of the Dead. The one thing that's kind of strange about it is that this is clearly three different stories glued together, isn't it?
There just seems to have been a rule at some point in Mexico that you could circumvent a lot of government regulation if you shot your films as either serials or television series. And they did this a lot with no intention whatsoever of actually releasing them as serials. They always wanted to put them together as films.
Yes.
So what you've got these three stories, which were essentially 3 episodes of a serial, which is why it's so episodic, and it's why the actors change halfway through the film.
Yes,
You'll
yeah,
notice that the hero isn't played by the same person, even though he's got a mask on. He's very clearly not the same person at all. And the boy that he adopts in the first 30 minutes turns into an entirely different character played by an entirely different actor
yeah.
for the next 30 minutes.
That's right. Paco basically becomes Chico halfway through
Yeah.
the film, or some whatever his
With
name
no
is.
explanation. Presumably the longer version of it, the original, however many episodes serial,
Yeah,
would have explained all that. But
yeah,
in this version, you just live with it.
yeah. I'm looking for that 12-hour version of it. So we get.
Oh, good luck with that. Yeah.
Yeah, we get the mummy, we get the we get the I don't know, the
Jack the
Rifle
Ripper.
Skulls, the Invisible Man,
Yeah.
or
Caligula.
whatever. I think towards the end they get the Invisible Man when they finally ran out of budget. But yeah, right. So the next film is. We're basically in the realms of the American B movie now. This is directed by William Bodine, and it's 1966's Billy the Kid versus Dracula.